think we'll get started now. I want to welcome everybody to the info session for the 2025 Community Foundation Cohort, centered around the Sustainable Development Goals, led this year by two awesome organizations, ABFI, Philanthropic Partnership for Black Communities, and CF Leads this year, Community Foundations Leading Change. I'm Aaron Goldman. I'm one of the trainer advisors at ABFI within the Philanthropic Advising Services Department. And my ABFI colleagues joining us today include Trinette Cooper, the Director of Philanthropic Advising Services, and Bria Butler, coordinator of the department, without whom none of this would be possible. I want to also acknowledge our representatives of our funding institution, the Charles Stewart Mott Foundation. Thank you, Nick, for being here as well. And we're looking forward to a great conversation. I want to, if you haven't already, please introduce yourself in the chat. And I want to acknowledge our colleagues and partners at CF Leads. If you guys want to say hello.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name's Megan Cummings. I'm our Senior Vice President of Strategy, Impact, and Operations of CF Leads. And so happy to be joined by some of my colleagues today, Rachel Reese, Jennifer Lopez, and Kelly Alexander. Hope I didn't miss anyone else, but we're a team of people from across the country who are just dedicated to community foundations and helping to partner with them to do their community leadership work better in their communities. So there's over 900 community foundations across the country, and we're excited to partner with them of all sizes and all geographies and all topic areas to speed the pace of change in their communities around community leadership competencies. So we are thrilled to be partnering with ABFI on this SDG cohort, and we've been really working hard to bring this to you today and launch a really successful cohort in 2025. So we're excited to tell you more and answer your questions and make sure you have everything you need to decide if this is right for your foundation to join us in this journey. So really happy to be here today.
Thank you, Megan. And Megan didn't have a chance to put it in the chat, but she's joining us from Cincinnati, Ohio, a city I love. I'm joining today from Amherst, Massachusetts. And for those who don't know too much about ABFI, we're actually the oldest affinity group in philanthropy, founded in 1971. Originally known as the Association for Black Foundation Executives. We are still that. We are a member organization for Black professionals and philanthropic institutions focused on Black communities. But we are also grown to be more than that, including the Philanthropic Advising Services Department and the Programming Department, bringing programming and services and support to the entire sector. So what are we doing here today? We're here to give you a sense of this cohort program, which was going to kick off in the beginning of 2025. This is the second year of the cohort specifically focused on applying the UN Sustainable Development Goals to your racial equity agenda. Again, we have the benefit of partnering with CF Leads to add the CF Leads community leadership model, and combining this expertise. We are excited about helping you advance your existing priorities at a really complicated and difficult time, and figure out how the SDGs can be helpful to you to stay organized, track your progress impact, benchmark how your community is doing relative to other communities and other countries around the world, and learn hopefully some surprising insights to add to your sense of your own community's performance. I think Megan is going to tell us a little bit more about exactly how the program works, and just how you have a sense where this is leading is a frequently asked questions section where we're going to go over some of those common questions and then leave plenty of time for you guys to ask whatever questions you have. Small, practical, content driven, whatever it is. So please take mental notes or actual notes, and we'll have plenty of time at the end for your questions.
Right.
Megan?
Thanks, Erin. So on the next slide we want to show is just an overview of the Sustainable Development Goals. These are massive goals set by the UN that, helps our whole world organize around the most pressing issues that are facing us right now. And one thing I think is so interesting when we have these conversations about applying SDGs to place-based work, oftentimes what we hear is like, but they're so big and they're global, and how does that apply to my city or my state or the area I'm working in? And chances are, very, very good chances are that you are already working within things that are included in the SDGs. So just as a little interactive portion right now, if you just want to type in the chat, looking at these 17 goals, and I think Jen's going to put them in the chat as well. What work are you already doing in these sustainable development goals? So you can kind of look over them and see how your current priorities at your community foundation or organization already fit into this. And that was
In
really,
our experience, funders can relate to at least one, often multiple goals that they're already working on.
yeah, that's right. And I think when we were setting up this cohort and thinking about how we were going to do this, it was really important to know that, like, you are probably already doing this work. This is not something that's going to be in addition to everything else you're doing. It's just a really helpful framework and set of tools that we can offer to help you focus that work and fit it into this really exciting, more global framework. So if you want to put some ideas in the chat about how you're already doing this, you can see the 17 goals listed there. And man, they just cover the gamut of many, many things that are important in all of our communities right now. So let me tell you just a little bit about what we have in store for 2025. As we look at the program components, um, we are looking at launching 2 different cohorts next year. One will happen in the spring and one will happen in the fall. You can join either cohort. You can have some folks from your foundation join one and then others join the second one, or you can go through it twice. If, anytime we're exposed to a training again, you often get a deeper understanding. So we're really open to how you want to join this next year, but we'll have one in the spring and one that kicks off in the fall.
And if I
The
could just
current,
add, Megan,
yeah, sure.
another way to think about it is you won't be surprised we go from theory to practice, from the big picture to
Yeah.
implementation, with a lot of peer learning and time to work on your own initiatives and apply this to your work. So this can be really useful space to get that work done over one cohort or both.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thanks for adding that. And again, as we talked about, this curriculum will help you overlay the SDGs onto your existing priorities. And the kind of beauty of CF Leads and APFE working on this, APFE will bring their racial equity framework to the subject matter, and CF Leads will bring our expertise in community leadership competencies to increase the impact. So you're really getting the best of both of our organizations and within this SDG framework. So we're really excited, and that's something that we felt like could really, expedite your results in your community by doing the 1-2 punch of both of our competencies in there. The sessions are virtual, and they will incorporate many modes within each session. We will do peer learning. We will have national thought leaders on these areas present to you. We will go very concrete examples, case studies of community foundations who have successfully deployed the SDGs for local impact. I assure you, it is not death by PowerPoint, right? These are very interactive sessions that will have curriculum that push your understanding forward and things that you can really apply in your community as you go through this. They are meant to build on each other through the 3 sessions, and there'll be plenty of time to meet other people doing the work in these areas as well. One thing we were really excited about adding to this year's cohort is each team will have the opportunity to engage in individual consulting for your team, up to 6 hours. And that's where you can work on really specific challenges and opportunities. And depending on what you're facing as your community foundation or your organization in this work, maybe you need some more specific information about the SDGs. Maybe you have a very specific question that we can pair you up with another community foundation on how they want to work on this. So our goal through that consulting is to get very individualized in what your issues are, so we can help you get to the next step in your community. So that's kind of an overview of what we have planned for these cohorts next year. And we'll go a little bit deeper. And Erin, do you want to share with the group 2 amazing thought leaders that will be joining us for our cohorts?
Yeah, definitely. And Megan, I'd never heard that expression, death by PowerPoint, but I like it in a
Have
not
you ever
liking it kind of
experienced it
way.
though, Erin? You've probably experienced it. You just didn't know
Yes,
what it was
I
called.
fear maybe I'm guilty of it, but you're absolutely right. We really prioritize getting out of the way and letting folks connect with each other, and folks making those connections and lasting relationships is really an important goal of the whole program. To help us with some research and practitioner experience are 2 really wonderful experts in the field that we successfully used last year, and they have agreed to come back. Larry McGill from Ambit 360 Consulting has had a wealth of experience helping community foundations get the work done, apply it, figure out how the SDGs can help them advance um, their existing priorities, whether it's allocating limited resources more effectively, measuring impact, community engagement and communication about the point of the work, evaluation and benchmarking performance, even fundraising and board engagement can really be served using the power of the SDG framework. And Larry is going to tell us about his experience and bring in some of his partners from community foundations to talk about how it has gone, both in terms of successes and challenges. Dr. Helen Bond from Howard University is really pivotal, not just in terms of her presentation, but she has been instrumental in designing the course to ensure that we look at the SDGs in order to understand and advance a bold racial equity agenda. Her work in the red has been groundbreaking research using the SDGs to disaggregate data and understand where the biggest equity challenges lie regionally in the U.S., comparing the U.S. to other places abroad, and the way she helps us be very systematic about our equity agendas, again, tracking performance and being very transparent and clear about what we're after is really invaluable. ABFI's model around racial equity, called the responsive philanthropy in Black communities, is really well served by the SDGs, looking at these universally relatable goals that have been accepted internationally and thinking about the differential resources that are needed to make sure that everyone gets to that desired outcome. And that's really what Helen helps us think about and work towards.
Right. We're so excited that they'll be joining us in every conversation we have with them to plan for this. It's like there's just another layer of the onion that's peeled off about how much they understand this field and how to apply these to the work. So we're thrilled. We couldn't have better people joining us to help
And
present to you.
And Megan, I should add that Larry and Helen have both agreed to not just be part of our formal group sessions, but to be part of the consulting phase on a case-by-case basis where it makes sense, given each participant institution's particular circumstances.
Yeah, what a remarkable opportunity to get access to that level of expertise. So it's really exciting. Let me tell you a little bit about the timeline. So the application was released mid-October. You're with us today on Halloween for this information session. This will be recorded, and we'll also be, putting this information on our website. So if you know others that might be interested, they can access the information that we're sharing today.
I think
The
it's important to keep
application,
mentioning it's Halloween, so when people
yeah,
watch this recording at a later date, they're not wondering why I'm wearing this ridiculous outfit today.
exactly. Um, Yeah, great. The application deadline is November 22nd, and we'll be announcing the participants for the cohort in on December 8th. So you have plenty of time to plan and get everything together. The first cohort sessions will happen in February, March, and April of 2025. And then that consulting again is a little bit variable. If you need it kind of during those sessions to work through certain issues, we can do that. If it's kind of you want to go through those 3 sessions of information and then really how you're going to apply it, it can extend past then. So just know that's a very flexible schedule for how you use that consulting that's included in the cohort. And then Cohort B kicks off. The application will be released in May. We'll do another information session in June. I don't know if Aaron's wearing a costume to that or not, but we'll see. You just might want to join us just to see how that goes. And then Cohort B applications will be due June 20th. We'll announce the class on July 7th. And then those will take place September, October, and November of 2025 with that TA and consulting being kind of wrapped into those cohort sessions and then again afterwards. So we hope to kind of conclude this whole piece by February 2026. So that's kind of what we're thinking of for the timeline. And even if you're on the call today, but you're really thinking, I think it would be better for, fall of next year to join, that's totally fine. So you can apply. You can kind of keep that application in mind for next year as well. So, we've talked a little bit about the scope of the program, but I think what might be most interesting right now is for you to hear from a community foundation that has actually applied this. And I saw in the chat, Lydia, your foundation works on 9 of the 17. So that's kind of like superstar status of how you put this in. So I'm going to turn it over to Aaron to talk to one of our participants from last year from the Community Foundation of Greater Flint. And Aaron and Lydia, take it away.
And representing one of our star institutions, the Community Foundation of Greater Flint. We just want to give a little taste, an inspiring, hopefully, taste of what's possible in terms of internalizing and operationalizing the Sustainable Development Goals to take on very real, practical, local challenges and priorities. So Lydia is a senior program officer at the foundation. And I'd just like to, if you wouldn't mind, Lydia, if you just say hello and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about both how the SDGs work in your organization, but how you were able to take advantage of this cohort program so that folks can start to imagine what it might be like for them. Lydia?
Thanks, Aaron, and thanks, Megan, for highlighting. We did a lot of work to get to kind of those top alignments of our SDG, in the work that we do. We've been able to work actually with Larry McGill over the last few years. He's been a consultant to the foundation for quite some time now. And that's been really helpful into getting to the place where we have some understanding around where is the strongest alignment between the work of the foundation, the work that we already do. Like Megan said, you're likely already doing a lot of this. And so it's just making sure that you find the alignments. And so there's been some process to get there to see where those alignments exist. And I also agree that one of the biggest mental hurdles probably is getting from global goals to local. But what I think I've enjoyed the most about the last cohort and the one coming up is that we're utilizing existing frameworks in the philanthropy space to help bridge those connections and make those alignments, right? When you take something like ABFI's Responsive Philanthropy in Black Communities framework, and you take CF Lead's Community Leadership Framework, and then you map that, and connect it to SDGs, you begin to see how things that you're already familiar with are aligned and supported by SDG framework. And then I think it becomes a little bit more concrete and thinking about how you might apply it. It's a collective impact framework. So it's intended to be these goals that you can, bring your community around, bring your organization around and understand where you're headed, have shared measurement, have that common language, and really be able to effectively then communicate what the impact is or where you're headed and what your progress is. So, Helen Bond was incredible last year, bringing in sort of, the red in the red information and making sure that you understand that although, racial equity is not a specific goal of the SDGs, it is a thread throughout that disaggregating data and really understanding, the challenges within community and then driving your, interventions and your work and your goals and your activities towards addressing those needs that are specific to your community are all part of the SDG framework. It's just not an explicit goal, but you have to understand that it is woven throughout. So I'm very much looking forward to this next cohort because we just started the process internally of aligning our community leadership initiatives with the SDGs. And so we're just getting into what that looks like in our own organization. Although we know we have, conceptually, we understand that is existing. We're able to now get it on paper and sort of start collecting data around it and thinking about how we're going to measure our community leadership impact going forward.
Lydia, that's so helpful, and I'm really glad you mentioned that racial equity isn't called out per se in the SDGs, though some of them get pretty close, and that, as Helen Bond points out, it's a thread throughout. It's also really, really timely in terms of the environment we're in right now, the pushback against affirmative action, the so-called DEI backlash, and we're finding that these universally relatable sustainable development goals are the perfect opportunity, perfect window to go through in order to level set and get everybody to agree, yeah, this is what we want. Clean air, literacy, these kinds of ideas. And from there, we can think about differential resources. In our RPPC model, we call it targeted universalism, and this is just another form and another example of how to adapt this to the particular dynamics today. And the last thing I want to say is that if some of you are thinking, well, geez, Lydia's done a lot, the Community Foundation Greater Flint has done a lot, we're just beginning, I'm just learning what the SDGs are. That is wonderful. We are glad you are here. Wherever you are on your journey, both in terms of racial equity, the community leadership model, or the SDGs, there is a place for you. And in fact, that kind of diversity is really helpful to our peer learning model and making those real connections. So both among institutions and individuals within institutions, we invite that kind of diversity, if that makes sense. Lydia, is there anything else you want to add about how the course worked for you or what you were able to do specifically in the context of the program that might be instructive?
Well, I'm not sure if it's going to look exactly the same as the last cohort, but I did like the opportunity that we were able to engage board members and donors if we wanted to.
Yes.
And I thought it was really cool that we offered conversations for those specific subgroups because they're all engaging with the organization in a different way. And so it allowed to, an opportunity to really tailor the conversations to those particular groups and the way that they're engaged and involved in the work. Not that we all can't come together, because we often do anyway to come together
Yeah.
to get work done, but I thought that was a really cool feature of the previous cohort. So sorry if that's not how it's going to play out this time, but I
Well, it's
thought,
really funny you say that because that was a really cool element, and for that reason, we built on it.
oh,
And,
good. Okay.
and this year, the tracks for board members, staff members, and donors are not separate. We're bringing everyone together to help foster and build those relationships and create that interaction that's going to be valuable well beyond the period of the program. So, thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, and thank you again, Lydia, for joining and sharing your experience and being part of this again. Next, I think we're going to move to our frequently asked questions. And if your frequently asked question doesn't appear here, then that's what the Q&A is for. So
Yeah.
don't worry.
We've done our best job to anticipate what you might be thinking and questions you might have. So we're going to run through these quickly. And again, if you have any other questions, you can put them in the chat and we'll have plenty of time to talk more at the end. And I hope Lydia will be around too to answer any questions as they come up from, a participant's point of view. So first, who is eligible? First, all community foundations who are interested in pursuing or already pursuing the work under one or more of the Sustainable Development Goals. We would love for you to join this. Even Lydia, she had signed up for this info session well before. They're pretty advanced in their work and they're going through it, this cohort again. So it's for folks that are really advanced in this work and people that are just putting their toe in the water. I think this might be something that's interesting for our community foundation. So all is welcome. We also are considering a limited number of United Way chapters to join us in this cohort. So if you're interested in that, we will be talking with them as their applications come through, and they'll be selected on a case-by-case basis. But we're really thinking this will be designed mostly for community foundations.
Just part of that logic, if I can
Yeah.
jump in. First of all, there's some obvious parallels in the models of United Ways and community foundations, but also in every other country almost except this one, the SDGs have been infused throughout the philanthropy, the nonprofit sector, and including the public and corporate sectors. So this is a little baby step towards that kind of integration.
Great. Erin, do you want to take our next frequently asked question? How much does this cost?
Oh, if you have to ask, Megan. Free. It's free. Thanks to the support from the Charles Stewart Mott Foundation, we're able to provide our services without a financial expense to you. But of course, we do absolutely require an investment of time and energy and commitment to this work. So, does free work for you?
Yeah, perfect. All right, let's move on. Should I select the spring or fall cohort? Well, whichever one fits into your schedule better. I think it's really, and you can also do both cohorts, if you want to get a sense of it in the spring, and then as your work builds, you want to hear the material again, you can certainly join us for spring and then fall. You can pick a few folks from your foundation to go through the spring and then a separate group of folks to go through in the fall, so you can kind of combine your knowledge and get that critical mass within your foundation to move forward. So it's really up to you. One of the things that's really important is your attendance from your whole team. So as you look at that schedule, see where that fits in and where you can really make the commitment to be at all 3 sessions. If you miss any one of them, it just really loses the arc of learning. So we would love for you to pick one where you can be most present. All right, moving on. What about travel?
No travel is required. We're considering the possibility of an in-person experience, perhaps connected to AbbVie's annual conference Harambe, which will take place in April in Atlanta. But no, for the moment, this is considered 100% virtual.
Yeah, great. How many people should participate? Well, we are encouraging 1 to 4 from each foundation. Of course, we think, 3 or 4 is a really great number because it allows you to really talk about these ideas, think about how you're going to apply them. And sometimes it's hard being that one person in your foundation that's like, really excited about an idea, and then you're just like going to bat for it alone all the time. So, we would love to see, 3 or 4, but it's open to 1 to 4 participants from each foundation. And as Aaron mentioned before, a diverse range of people is a great addition to this. Program staff, administrative staff, board members, donors. It's a time where you can really spend um, the investment of time working with other people that may be a little bit adjacent to your foundation on a similar goal. And those are really great cultivation opportunities as well for partnerships and just people understanding the work together. So 1 to 4 people. And again, it would be wonderful if you can make sure that your whole team sticks together throughout those 3 sessions and really can try to ensure your attendance at each one of the meetings.
Megan, you make a great point. The reason we're bringing together donors, staff members, board members, um, is to help build those relationships internally. We are not too proud to get out of the way and hear you say that one of the best outcomes of the program is to bring the board and staff closer together, build a couple key relationships, and allow you guys to develop your own organizational culture. Some of these more generic organizational development objectives, it's quite beautiful how they get accomplished sort of along the way, working on the SDG framework.
Yeah, right.
So is this a beginner or advanced SDG course? I think I sort of covered this by mistake earlier. All of the above. We have had examples of really inspiring work already being done in Flint and Evanston and others. And those folks have really taken advantage of the time and the resources to build on that work. Others are fresh to these ideas and information and have taken amazing steps for new initiatives to leverage their existing work and priorities. So all are welcome.
Yeah, great. Is there homework? Oh, I have an 11-year-old. He would ask this question for sure. So is there homework? Well, we're going to complement the virtual sessions with readings, reflections, guided work on your foundation's specific challenges. So like anything, you get as much as you put into it. So we will be providing materials to really enhance your experience and take your journey as deep as you can within your community to work on your goals and see what your action plan will be. So yes, we will be providing materials between sessions to kind of prepare you. So some pre-readings, some worksheets, exercises, kind of things to get you in the space to get the absolute most out of our virtual time together. It will not be graded though. So if that's a consolation, that would be good.
Yeah, I sort of am thinking on behalf of my daughter now, Megan, don't get stressed.
Yeah, don't get stressed. This is
It will not be overwhelming. It's meant to provide continuity and tools for you. And I also wanted to say one piece of homework you can count on is your responsibility to rebroadcast what has happened in the session within your organization.
yeah, that's great. So we anticipated those are the questions you might have for us, but now we would love to just open it up to the group. Any other things we can answer about this to kind of help you make your decision on whether you'd like to join us for the SDG cohort in 2025. And you can either just come off mute, which is totally fine, or type it in the chat. Joy Johnson asked, how long have you been doing this work? Well, let's start with Aaron on that question because AbbVie ran the SDG work last year. So do you want to start with that, Aaron?
Yeah, last year was, I'll sort of go in reverse chronological order. Last year was our first community foundation cohort focused specifically on applying the UN Sustainable Development Goals to your racial equity agenda. Previous to that, there was a community foundation cohort at AbbVie that did not have a specific focus on the SDGs. Rather, it was exclusively focused on our racial equity framework, the responsive philanthropy in Black communities, which will still be a priority. this time. And sort of depending on how you define this work, I've been at AppFi for 2.5 years now, doing racial equity capacity building with community foundations and other types of funders across the country, within the Philanthropic Advising Services Department. My entire career has revolved around social justice work, in many forms, and in philanthropy, both on the grant making and the grant seeking side. Megan, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'll just add that CF Leads is new to the SDG work this year, but we're excited to um, work in this topic area with our real bread and butter, which is bringing together learning cohorts around certain areas. We have a really deep learning cohort around economic mobility. That's been going on for several years. We've done racial equity cohorts, gun violence prevention network, Welcome America, pick the topic. We've done a learning arc and brought community foundations around this learning. So we're excited to take that proven model of how we inspire community foundations and arm them with the community leadership competencies to speed the pace of change of their work. So we'll be bringing that to the SDG framework this year. All right, Christina Nava, as does the size of the organization and location factors considered for eligibility? Oh, no, we are open. Well, let me pause. We were thinking this would be most appropriate for US-based community foundations, but of all sizes. I think anyone can plug into this work. You saw the SDG framework is really broad. Chances are you are already doing the work in these areas, no matter how big your foundation is. And then location, this is all virtual, so you can join us from anywhere. I hope that answers your question, Christina. If you have anything else, I'm happy to clarify anything.
And I can
Uh,
say that that
yeah, go ahead.
diversity there was also really a joy and a value last year, from the Seattle Foundation to several Midwest institutions in Iowa and elsewhere, all the way to the Community Foundation of Puerto Rico. So
Oh, nice, great. Joy Johnson is asking, can we use this program with other programs or grants? Might need a little bit more clarification on that one. Joy, would you feel comfortable coming off mute to tell me a little bit more about that?
Um, yes, I can.
Yeah.
In full transparency, I am partnering in this program with Yolanda, who's on, and she told me to ask, so I'm telling on her right now. But
that's a good
uh,
question. It's a
Yolanda.
good question.
but basically, we the two of us have for many years wanted to establish multiple actual self-sustaining communities that help the Black community, and
Okay.
so we are just now kind of stepping out, putting our toe in the water, as you said, to figure out what works best for us. And the challenge is we don't fully know. And I was actually doing research and came across you all's page. Because I do grant writing, grant seeking type of things, and showed her this, and so we're trying to see if this is something that's conducive to what it is that we think we want to do. But right now we're gathering a lot of different information from different resources because we've never done this. We see the need, we want to step out there in faith and do it, but we don't know what we're doing. So we didn't want to, if I am kind of describing what it is that she's thinking, we don't want to obligate ourselves into something that later on we're going to say, oh, this doesn't fit our end goals, or what we think our end goals are, because they're all in pencil right now anyway. Does that make sense?
I'm hearing some things here. One thing is, figuring out your end goals. I think that's a big part of what the SDG framework can be used for. Being really committed to a racial equity agenda is a prerequisite, but beyond that, how you're going to go about it, drawing on our framework, the SDGs, CF Leads community leadership model. That's up to you to figure out what's going to work best. Obviously, with your peer support and with our support. In terms of your question about other grants, I think this is one of those cases where as many interconnections as you can find to leverage assets and mobilize all of your resources towards a few key objectives, I think is a very powerful strategy, and I would encourage that. The final point I'll mention is we've had to turn away a few institutions last year because they weren't community foundations. This year we've been a little more flexible, considering United Ways, and we are also happy to consider associations, regional associations of community foundations, who are made up of community foundations. That has been successful, but other types of funders and grant-seeking organizations may not be eligible for this program. So in terms of setting yourself up for success, be wary of that, and please follow up with that with us if we can help clarify.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you so much.
great. Any other questions? Sharif, I see your hand up.
Hi, thanks. So I have it's a similar-ish question, as it relates to community foundation-ish orgs. I'm asking on behalf of two organizations that I know in our state that are basically like intermediaries, that are housed within community foundations. So like their infrastructure and systems are from the community foundations, but they kind of have a mandate where like their board is not the community foundation board, but they have their own governance committee and these sorts of things. So I was just curious if an organization or organizations like that could also apply, since some of the scaffolding they use to deploy resources into the field are from the community foundations that like house them.
Yeah, sure. I would be inclined to say that that would be a good fit, but we can certainly talk offline with more specifics. I spent 13 years at the Greater Cincinnati Foundation and actually worked for a organization within the foundation that sounds very similar to what you're talking about. I was at our Women's Fund, and so we kind of had our own leadership council and kind of board, but we were definitely within the framework of the foundation. And this would have absolutely been a great application of our work since we worked on gender equity. So I'm inclined to say yes with what you just shared with me, but we're happy to talk more offline if that's helpful.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great. We have a comment from Eric in the chat that says, along the lines of pushback Aaron mentioned earlier on DEI, racial equity, and special justice, any concerns about the growing pushback on the SDG framework itself? We have heard this, that, some communities are just maybe just the connection with United Nations on this work, can be polarizing in some places. And I would say the work is extremely important, and it's also extremely important how we frame that in conversation in our communities. So I would say if you don't want to lead with this being SDG work in your community, that's totally up to you, right? You're still going to have the tools at your disposal to do the work really well. I think what we've learned across our interaction with community foundations in all parts of this very diverse country is that doing the work is important, and you have to frame it in the way that works in your community to get it done. I'll give you a very brief example. We were talking with a community foundation about our gun violence prevention network that we lead at CF Leads. And they were like, we could never, ever lead with that in our community that we're doing gun violence prevention. But they said we could lead with the fact that we're doing safety and health outcomes for children. And then the data leads us to gun violence being a huge factor in that. And that's how we come at the issue. Great. Like, position it in the way that allows you to get your work done in the community. So yes, we have heard some pushback on SDGs and United Nations kind of involvement in that specifically. But again, we are going to give you great tools to do the work more effectively, and how you frame it in your community is a really important of how you get the most distance out of this work. So I hope that helps, Eric. And we have a lot of communities that deal with that as well. And you will probably find those other communities in this cohort, and you can probably talk together about how you can frame it for long-term success. Aaron, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, well, I think you did a great job, and I would just add, like you were alluding, narrative and communication strategy is a really important element of the framework, and so these are exactly the kind of considerations that would go into a lot of that very concrete planning. And as Megan says, there's absolutely zero obligation to specifically call out the UN or the SDGs in any of the work. The value goes much, much deeper than that.
Yeah. And thanks, Lydia, too, for adding on to that, the examples of community foundation that are not leading with the SDG branding or imagery. That's totally fine. Again, that's not something we're going to be auditing how you talk about this work. What we really, really care about is making sure your community is getting the results it deserves, so everyone can participate, prosper, reach their full potential through these very broad places. So that's what matters to us.
Yeah, and just to make it a little more real, maybe some of you can relate to the fact that historically data has been used as a tool of oppression. And a big part of this program is to take back data analysis, disaggregate in terms of race and other groups who have historically or are currently experiencing oppression, and tell the real story about what's going on and track the progress according to our own racial equity priorities. So that's really what excites me, and the labels are less important.
Yeah, great.
May I-
I'm putting my email in the chat, and I'm sure Aaron will follow up with his too. And we can also, you can email us questions too if they come to mind. And I think we have time for one or two more questions. Angela, I see your hand up.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't find the electronic way of virtually rather raising my hand. Aaron,
Oh,
is good
no
to
worries.
see you.
I saw you the old-fashioned way, the old-fashioned
Thank you.
virtual way. I gotcha.
Thank you, Megan, for your work. And Aaron, it's so good to see you in one place because you're often running around at the annual conference. So
Thank you for saying that. Good to see you too. And I'll see you in April, I hope.
yes, you will. Many of our clients are members of AFB, and I've already reached out to two in this chat. I don't think that with respect to SDG goals, we have to reinvent the wheel because, as I was saying in the chat to some of our clients, is you already have exposure to a lot of things on this list in your investment portfolio. So as Aaron and others can attest to, at that annual meeting, some of the breakout sessions really talked about racial equity by way of investments. You have them in your backyard with the local investments that you're making, perhaps through venture capitalists or private equity asset managers who actually do hire women and people of color in their portfolios. And so at Crucial Partners, we've worked very, very diligently of showing you the exposure you already have that could absolutely align with this list. So I think we should think more deeply about, and someone said earlier, how often the programmatic side or professionals do not have the same conversation with the investment side of the house. Hopefully that's happening more and more because,
Yes.
again, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I could show you all of the exposure that you have to a lot of the things that this community cares about on the investment side.
Angela, I'm so glad you mentioned that point. And that was one FAQ that didn't quite make the cut, and it sounds like it should have, which is that, who within the organization, who within the staff is this appropriate for? Because it's all too tempting to just assume that this is for program officers, for program people. And it is, but it's equally for admin staff, finance staff, senior, junior, mid-level.
Fundraising, yep.
First of all, we all deserve to have the time to sit with these important issues and learn. Second of all, there's no question it comes out better when the whole organization is coalesced and mobilized around these frameworks. So thank you for mentioning that.
Thanks, Angela. I think we have time for one or two more questions. Anything else? I don't see any old-fashioned hands or otherwise. Good. Nothing in the chat. Well, feel free to email us, and we're happy to answer any questions as the deadline approaches for applications.
We will also
One
follow up
stream,
with all of you with the materials from today
yeah,
and the
great.
appropriate links to learn more and sign up.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And please share this with your networks too. And I would be remiss not to just do a shameless plug for a awesome report that is coming out today from CF Leads, some racial equity case studies that we've been following foundations doing extraordinary work in these areas. And we're happy to share their case studies with you. And we have a really familiar person. So Lydia's foundation is included among the case studies. So if you want to check that out, what's going on in Flint, these are just places that are really just catalyzing this work in really special ways that we wanted to highlight. And it is fresh off the presses this morning. There's a link in the chat if you want to check out our latest release. And it's so nice that Lydia's a best practice in that and joined us as a best practice on the SDG part today, because it's all intertwined, isn't it, Lydia? Yeah, great.
And Megan, I think it would only be fair if I had an opportunity to plug an upcoming event at AbbVie
Great.
as well. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
On November 20th, we have the next monthly installment of our community workshops, and the theme in November is Responsive Philanthropy in Black Communities, an overview of AbbVie's racial equity framework. That is open to anyone, community foundations, other types of funders, and other types of entities, consultants, technical assistance providers, grant seekers. And it actually feels like it might be good sort of getting ready experience for the cohort, though I think the cohort is a perfect standalone kind of thing. This would definitely help get the juices flowing, and if you're not already super familiar with AbbVie, it's a great way to do so. And Bria, are you able to put the link to the info and sign up for the event there? If not, I can.
Great. So much good work going on. Well, we will be anxiously awaiting to see your applications come through. And if you have any questions, just reach out to us. We are happy to help and answering questions. And have a great Halloween today if you do that, if you celebrate, and a peaceful week ahead.
Thank you, guys. And I just want to leave folks with the thought of how current and timely this stuff is. Thinking about the wildfire smoke from Canada, the immigration crisis that has become a national phenomenon now, or these storms that are getting more severe and more frequent and increasingly having regional impacts. As place-based funders, we no longer have the luxury of only thinking within our regions if we want to understand the root causes and solutions to some of these challenges. And so increasingly, I think we're being forced by global changes to think at the global level to solve local problems. So if you're here, maybe you already have a sense of that, but I hope that you'll spend time with us so we can together make those connections, build those relationships, and develop bold plans to further your existing priorities. Thank you, everyone, for your time and energy and the important work that you're already doing.
Thank you so much. Have a great night. See ya.
Bye, everyone.
You guys are amazing.